Hello everybody, in this video I have a scrapbook process to share with you using the Paige Evans Bloom Street collection. I decided for this layout I was going to make a feature of paper stitching, which I haven't really done for ages and ages. I use my sewing machine a lot on layouts to like add little elements of texture and stuff, but as for actual hand stitching, especially a big element, I haven't done it in ages. So I just kind of sketched out a rough flower that was kind of similar to some of the flowers in this collection, just really roughly doing it very lightly with my pencil so it's easy to erase when the time comes. And then I'm doing a few leaves on the edge of that as well, and then I am just going to take my Tim Holtz pokey tool to poke the holes in. I don't have a proper paper stitching mat thing. I just use a felt mat that I bought from Hobbycraft. I don't think you need a proper paper stitching one, and that thing cost me like 70 pence. Woohoo! For those of you who haven't done paper stitching or maybe new to it or whatever, when you're poking the holes, one thing to remember is especially when you're going around curves, is to make the holes not too far apart from each other. Because as you go around a curve, if the holes are too far apart, you'll get kind of like a jaggedy effect. So yeah, make them slightly closer as you go round the curve, and then when you're in a straight line you can make them a little further apart from each other. What I also did with this layout is, because obviously you don't want to see the ugly pencil line of your drawing, is you erase it before you start stitching once you've got the holes on, but I didn't want to get confused, especially where like the flower meets the leaf. So what I did is I erased the flower shape first, then stitched that, then erased the leaf shapes and then stitched those, as I said, just because some of those holes of the leaves and the flowers get very close to each other and I was going to get confused if I mixed it up, quite frankly. I do get asked, at least I used to when I shared this a lot about paper stitching, people say things like, oh, I don't know how you have the patience, or oh, I don't have the time, which I find mildly insulting, I'm not going to lie, because it implies that I have all the time in the world. But it's like, it's a relaxing activity, everyone stops occasionally, and if you don't then you should, but this is what I do, is like I just, something like fussy cutting and paper stitching, just sit down and watch Netflix or YouTube. The time when you're going to sit down and stop doing something is when I do something like this. I'm a fidget, I can't just sit and watch YouTube or sit and watch Netflix, I have to be doing something with my hands. So that's what I do. I did the first bit of stitching on camera just so you could see, and then I just went off and took it to my bedroom and whapped on something on Netflix and then just sat there and stitched the whole thing. It probably took maybe an hour, maybe not quite an hour, not ages and ages. It's not a very intricate stitch there. As I said, I just kind of hand sketched it. It's quite a simple shape. I have seen people do some very complex shapes before. I was torn as well whether to do a chain stitch or just a simple back stitch. I tried out the chain stitch, but I just thought it just didn't work. I wanted this to be quite delicate, so I just went, as I said, with the simple back stitch with some white embroidery thread. So once all my stitching is done, well actually I left it overnight because I got into a Netflix hole and started watching The Fall, which I know is really old now, but just obsessed. I am obsessed with Gillian Anderson, she is absolutely everything. But anyway, on topic, yes, I left it overnight, and also we're doing all the stitching, it can kind of warp your paper a little bit, get a couple of bends and folds, so I just kind of put it under my craft mat and put something heavy on there just to sort of straighten it out. And then yeah, I wanted to start working on embellishments and stuff. I did fussy cut a few flowers from that paper you can see there. I don't end up using those because they ended up being a little too bold for what I was going with for this layout. I wanted something a little bit pastel. So I came across this stamp set from an old Paige Evans collection from Turn the Page, and it's like a layering flower stamp set, so I thought I'd just add a little bit of that onto the layout. I tried first, I just did a test stamp underneath where I knew where the picture was going to go, so you can kind of test how it looks on your paper and how it's going to fit in with everything, but if you hate it then it doesn't matter because your picture's going to go on top of there. So yeah, I'm using Memento Dew Drop inks for this. The colours I'm using are Pink Petunia, Pink Grapefruit and Thatched Straw, and then you've got the little leaves, and I think that colour is Oasis Green. I don't think I wrote it down, but yeah, the little leaf elements. I think a lot of people wouldn't add the flowers, they would just have like their their photo and all the elements around it and stuff, and then leave it at that. But I'm not that kind of scrapbooker. I'm not very good at having lots of white space. I like lots of little details and stuff on my layout, so yeah, that's why I added the flowers. Now, as I said, it's a flower layering stamp set, so with the top layer to go over the flower, I was going to go with a black or like a grey or something, but I decided that would be too much, so I'm actually using the Cloud White Drew Drop, and that actually worked out really well, because even though you can now see that flower's shape, because it's not a completely opaque ink, you can see the colour come through, so kind of a bonus there. You can still see like the pink and the yellow and stuff, but as I said, you can still see the flower shape. So with the stamping done, I am just going to back my photo. I chose that quite bright paper there with all the diamonds and stuff just to help it stand out a little bit more, and then I also decided to add some Distress Oxide and Weathered Wood around the edges to make it stand out just a little bit more. Weathered Wood is one of my absolute favourite oxide colours because it's so perfect when you want something a bit dark to help it stand out, but you don't want to go full on black, and maybe grey isn't quite right, then Weathered Wood is really, really perfect for that because, yeah, it's really subtle. I am getting interrupted. Yes, hello, what can I do for you? Why does that person never shut the door after they interrupt me? I know I sound like a teenager, like, shut the door, but I just shut the flipping door. Anyway, I was talking about oxides and I can't really remember what I was saying. Oh, about Weathered Wood and how it's just really good for like pastel layouts when you want to darken something up. The only thing is it is very blue tinted, so keep that in mind. If you're having a lot of reds or something on your layout, then Weathered Wood may not work out. But anyways, yes, picture I propped it up on some foam squares just so, because if I put it down flat you might get an awkward, like uncomfortable little bump where it goes over the stitching, and that would just look a bit naff, so that's why I propped it up on little foam squares. And then I just wanted to add like just a few elements to really make the picture stand out and not just have florals around it, which was the original plan I had in my head. So all these little bits and pieces are from the main ephemera pack, again going around the edges with the Weathered Wood. And there was that little thing that says "You are my sunshine," which I just thought was adorable. And then I did go in and add a few little flowers because I had that little stamped flower at the very bottom left there. Just I thought a few flowers around where that was would work nicely. And then I needed something up the side as well, and I started off just going to use flowers. These are either from the flower ephemera pack or they're ones I have fussy cut already from the collection and didn't use in a project or whatever. But I had that little scalloped piece that I'd already tried to put somewhere else behind the picture before and it didn't work, but it did work on the other side, so there we go. So I've put that down, then I'm just layering up some flowers over the top of that. My picture, as you can well see, is a picture of my cat Conan. This was taken in the spring and he had been sleeping or snoozing on a garden chair in the sunshine, and he just woken up, and this is him like stretching, and I caught him just like at the very end of a yawn, so his mouth is just like ever so slightly open. I just went through the sticker book there to find like a couple of other little bits and pieces to put around the photo to help make it stand out. I found this little phrase that said "Rise and Shine," which I thought would work because, as I said, he'd just woken up. And then I wanted to bring in my title. I wanted to use the thickers pack from the collection, and I just went with the hello. I just thought, you know, that works better than any of the others, so we'll just go with that. And because these thickers, the material they're made of, they're very flexible to change the shape of them. So as you can see, I went like around the shape of the inner flower, and I really like the way that looks. Like it's just a little bit funky, but also the title isn't floating in mid-air either. It's got that base of the stitched flower. Adding some splatters here, I went with Distress Oxide in Tattered Rose. I did try out using antique linen because I thought a yellow would be nice, but it wasn't the right kind of yellow, and none of the other yellows I have in my stash, they were all too bright. I didn't have a toned down enough yellow to use, so I went with the Tattered Rose. It did fade a little bit, the pink of it, once it was dry, so I also off camera went and added some white splatters as well with Dina Wakley gloss spray, and then of course finished off with a load of white Nouveau drops, the crystal drops. And that is going to be it for this layout, so thank you so much for watching. I'll leave links to inks and stuff in the description box. You should be able to get some of the Paige Evans Bloom Street collection. Her new one has just come out, but this is the previous one. I'm sure bits of it will be out and about. And yes, anyways, getting rambly, gonna shut up. Please leave me a thumbs up, chat to me down in the comments. Really helps out little channels like me. And yep, okay, that's it. I am going. Thank you again. Bye bye.